Chapter 67. The story continues. 2 months later. Ponyville had suffered greatly during the war against Immortalis. Buildings had been smashed, lives and livelihoods had been ruined. But that was not to last, and already much of the town was undergoing reconstruction. Crowborn, Immortalis. No matter what the world threw at them, the ponies would always repair and rebuild. Still, it had a lot of work that needed doing to it before any residents would slowly trickle back in. Construction crews were the only ponies who regularly frequented the town, clearing away the rubble and setting the foundations for the new buildings to replace what came before. The outline for the new town hall was the most easily visible of their work, and they continued to work on that among other buildings from the center of town outwards. The Carousel Boutique was amongst them, as was Sugar Cube Corner, and the latter seemed to be getting a bit of a makeover in the meantime, the Element of Laughter having more than one idea on how to make it the bestest party place in all of Equestria, quote-unquote. In regards to the Element Bearers, the 6 mayors and their dragon friend were walking through the rebuilding town. They passed by buildings both shattered and half-built, a rejuvenated tree so full of life directly ahead of them. It was a deep trip down memory lane, and it was one that they made together. Canterlot. So, how are things at home? Vladimir asked, stretching out his repaired limb actuator. It was a mess last time we were there. Last time you were there, it had just been raided, Cardus retorted. But yes, things are going well back there. Captain Facade has gotten things in order. Luckily, most things are intact. Our attackers are more interested in the drones than the architecture. Cardus was accompanied by his family, sitting across from Broadsword's own in the Solar Captain's own back garden. Joining them were Vladimir, Shining Armor, Saronis, and Puelula. This was to be their last get-together for a while, and everyone was keen to get back to their respective homes.
I'm looking forward to my own bed,
Puelula commented.
I'm sleeping in for days after all of this. Oh, no, you're not,
Saronis said to her little sister.
I'm sure there will still be plenty to do when we get back, so early starts for you.
Puelula grumbled to herself.
You're the worst. New Empress in the making.
Saronis rolled her eyes.
Oh, don't be so dramatic. You spent too long around Rarity, I think. I'm sure you can get plenty of sleep. A few early nights would be good for that.
Bleh, Puelula dismissed. Teenagers, Vladimir said with an amused shake of his head.
Celestia help us when Valiant reaches that age,
Scarlet said. Hey, the aforementioned Colt objected, shifting in annoyance between his mother's hooves.
I will not.
Of course you won't, Broadsword agreed with his young son. You'll be disciplined. The model Solar Guard.
Yeah,
Valiant shouted enthusiastically. Just make sure he doesn't end up a stone-faced grump, Vladimir joked. I'm not that bad, Broadsword replied, before adding, anymore. Seriously, back when you were a commander, I used to think they just packed you into a crate at the end of your shifts, since you were clearly some kind of advanced golem. Broadsword glared at his counterpart. I got better. A little, I guess, Vladimir said, holding his hooves as close to one another as possible without them touching.
Just a smidge.
Thanks, Vlad. I appreciate it. I only have serpents to go by, so I won't agree or disagree, Cardus added in.
Now, stop teasing the poor Pegasus,
Panacea gently scolded, only to elicit a snort from Broadsword.
Or continue. It's quality entertainment,
Yuvenish cheekily added. Oh, really? Cardus said, turning to his daughter with a mischievous smirk. Well, how about we talk about you instead, then? I mean, I've yet to have my latest status update on Cult Friend prospects. Yuvenish just rolled her eyes.
You just want to do the tough and scary former captain routine.
Cardus chuckled. Well, I'll need to make sure they're worthy of you.
And this is why if I ever do get a cult friend, I'm not bringing them home.
Then I'll just scour the Hive mind for them.
Then I got one who's not on the same wavelength as you.
I know the Queen, and she can speak to all the drones in the Hive.
That's abuse of authority!
And it will all be worth it. Fathers, pony or changeling, never change, Shining Armor commented, thinking about his own father. Oh, don't worry, Shining, Carta stated. You'll do the same to Flurryheart. Shining grinned. I certainly plan to. Careful, she's an alicorn, Vladimir jokingly warned. Imagine if she and Cadence ganged up on you. His grin fell slightly. I see that happening one day, Shining said with a shrug. It's my family, though, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Can't wait to see Flurry again.
Hopefully she's not giving Sunburst too much trouble,
Scarlet Snow remarked.
I know how excitable she can be.
Sunburst has always been good with her, Shining Armor noted. It's nothing he can't handle. Besides, she's generally a good girl if you haven't given her too much sugar.
I think that goes for all children,
Scarlet replied, looking down knowingly at her own son. True, but I'm still looking forward to getting home. And so's Cadence. I think we all want to put this event behind us, Shining Armor, Broadsword stated. It could have ended so much worse.
It almost did,
Palula muttered. And yet, we're still here, Vladimir rebutted. All we can do is move forwards, as we have always done. And see whatever tomorrow brings, Cardus remarked. Vladimir nodded. And see whatever tomorrow brings. While Twilight and her friends were in Ponyville, and a large group talked together in Broadsword and Scarlet's home, 3 alicorn princesses stood atop one of the castle's spires and looked out upon the city below.
It's good to see our ponies returning to the streets,
Princess Luna noted, seeing a couple of Pegasi fillies chasing each other through the buildings below them.
Equestria without joy is a terrible thing indeed. Indeed it is, sister,
Princess Celestia agreed.
And I'm happy the changelings can share in it. I've already sent word to begin new shipments of love energy from the Crystal Heart,
Princess Cadence added in.
They had plenty to trade in turn, so it should begin soon. And it won't be too taxing on the heart?
Luna inquired. Cadence shook her head.
Not at all. At least as long as there's love to be had in the Crystal Empire. It's powerful, and it's willing to share. What is love, if not to be shared?
Celestia mused.
Something darkened that should be left well alone,
Cadence replied with a frown.
When changelings lust after love energy to further their own power, they cause so much harm and suffering. When they just share it, rather than hoard and take by force, everyone is better off for it. Including the changelings, Luna stated, now that they no longer have to hide in the shadows. Now that they follow Twilight's example,
Celestia pointed out.
She's become quite the effective ruler in her own right. Her hive is already returning to its former glory. Quite the feat, when she's also juggling the needs of Equestria and the process of integrating the other hives. She does love a challenging project,
Cadence noted with a smile.
Is it any wonder the Empress could never hold her indefinitely?
Celestia said, pride in her voice.
My daughter is home, and the world is all the brighter for it.
I still can't believe it guilt-tripped Discord into making a new library, Applejack said in barely concealed amusement, speaking directly to Fluttershy. The Yellow Pegasus tried to hide behind her mane.
Well, it was the least he could do. I'm sure he was happy to do it.
Twilight snorted.
Oh, he was happy, all right. Bit of advice. When asking anything from him, make sure to be very specific with your words. Oh dear. What did he do? Turn it into an ant?
Rainbow Dash joked.
No, nothing like that,
Twilight said thankfully.
He did go out of his way to mess with me, though. I made sure he reversed it all before the librarian is due to move back in. Well, that won't be any time soon, given how the town looks,
Rarity noted.
But still, I'm glad to hear the damage wasn't permanent. As am I,
Twilight said, but then frowned.
I'm no longer sure he actually did it just for the laughs. He said a few unusual things for his ordinarily blasé self. Oh? What did he say?
Fluttershy asked, her curiosity piqued. Twilight didn't answer immediately, her frown increasing as she played the strange event back through her mind.
I'll tell you all later. It's nothing too important. It doesn't sound not important going by that frown of yours,
Pinkie Pie noted, looking at Twilight strangely.
Is something wrong?
The group stopped just outside the Golden Oaks library, all of them looking towards Twilight with questioning looks.
No. Nothing,
Twilight assured her piqued friend, offering her a fang-filled smile.
Yes, the library is as good as new. The rest of Equestria shouldn't be so far behind it.
Well, Ponyville gets smashed by something or other often enough, Spike commented. They've learned. Remember the Parasprites?
I try not to.
Rarity dismissed, shuddering.
But yes, the rest of the country is following suit. Manhattan is going to take some time, though. That tsunami destroyed much of the city. It's by far the biggest disaster to come from the war.
Yeah, tell me about it,
Rainbow Dash agreed.
According to Spitfire, the EUP is wanting to upgrade its arsenal for the future. Something about adapting those musket things the Griffins invented? I don't know.
This was the bloodiest conflict Equestria's had in 1,000 years, and the EUP took quite the beating, Spike noted. I'm fully expecting that 10 years from now the entire army will be revamped.
Navy too, given how many ships were lost in Manhattan.
Well, as long as they get everything fixed before chasing after their new shiny MacGuffins,
Applejack stated.
Hey, Twi, those changelings from the other hives going to land a hoof?
Twilight nodded.
They are. No offense to pony builders, but there is something to be said about the efficiency of hive coordination.
Yeah, and you definitely don't sound smug about it at all, Spike remarked with a smirk.
Speaking of changelings, how's your hive doing?
Applejack asked.
Most are starting to move back home,
Twilight said happily.
It'll be good to get back to the equestrian hive. Seems like it's been gone for an eternity. Are Serenus and Palula home yet?
Rarity inquired. Twilight shook her head.
No, they're still up in Canterlot, as is Cardus and his family. But they'll be along too. I've got almost all of my drones reconnected now. My guard is reforming and my subjects are returning to their normal lives. And I take it your latest captain of the Royal Guard is doing well?
Rarity slyly asked, blinking her eyelashes knowingly at Twilight.
He must be truly capable.
Twilight blushed.
I needed someone to replace Captain Scorpion, and he stood alongside my brother and the others until the very end. And he has experience from Draco's Hive. He was a good choice. I'm sure he was, darling,
Rarity replied.
You have been spending an awful lot of time together recently, after all.
And so the blush deepened.
I'm helping him improve his shape-shifting. I mean, he's really bad at it, so I thought he could use the help, and that's all. Of course.
Rarity said in such a way to say that she wasn't fooling any of them. Twilight groaned.
I'm a queen. I shouldn't have to deal with this. You're not so lucky,
Rainbow said in amusement, thumping the lavender changeling queen on the shoulder.
I'm already planning the engagement party,
Pinkie announced cheerfully.
Pinkie Pie!
Twilight shouted, her eye twitching as she looked towards Spike expectantly. The dragon just shrugged. Hey, don't look at me. I'm having too much fun just listening in.
You traitor,
she hissed in turn. The element bearers all shared a laugh at the queen's expense, though the changeling could do little to hide her own small smile. It was good to just hang out with them and leave her crown far behind for a little while. It was a time where she could be the person she was before her heritage came to light, before she became the queen of the hive. But she knew that, in but a short while, that side of her would have to return. But for the moment, she was just Twilight Sparkle. and she was happy.